Uh, before you go to the main event, the exercise. Yeah, so this was a presentation for when we went to Entebbe for the diabetic clinic. So felt like it's also just, I've not got time to present that side because we were so overwhelmed. Yeah, a lot of people came, a lot of people looking for the medications, the insulin. Unfortunately, a lot of them had to go because even the drugs ran out, the supply. So it is a real issue, it's a big issue. And I was telling Christian how we are planning to come to Entebbe. We are here working on how to create solution there. Coming from far is not good. But anyway, these conditions are everywhere. As you can see, for diabetes, currently in Uganda, they are up to 2.5% of the adults. This was now all figures, but currently is 2.5 to 3 million of Ugandans have diabetes. And out of those, only 80% are aware of it, that they have diabetes. So out of 10 who have, only 2 know that they have. And out of those 2, 20%, only 4%, which is a quarter, actually a fifth, are on medications or control. So yeah, it's very, very serious issues with diabetes. And the thing about diabetes also goes mainly with hypertension, I think, and the other, what we call the NCDs. There's also, before it was a disease for the rich, diabetes, but now, even in the villages, it's becoming more common because the lifestyle is becoming the same, whether you are rich or poor. Mainly the diet is not that different, really. People are eating almost the same thing. In fact, you might even say rich people are the ones who are even, maybe the ones who are too rich might afford foods which are healthier, like fruits, which are becoming actually more expensive compared to just a Rolex. Yeah, that's another factor. So of course, this things to do with urbanization, society transitioning from farming to living in cities, urban areas, just like, Kampala, coming from Entebbe, having to use a car, long distance, with the sedentarism, which is now lack of activities. We are creating new technologies to make us not to work hard. Everything, there's now a new technology. There's the phone. There's really much you have to do because of the innovations. And of course, the diet, which has been social media, movies, music. Yeah, we see American diet. We all want to go to KFC. Now we have cafe chavas, so it's for the cool, it's for the rich. There was someone who I was talking to, and they were like, he was a nutritionist, so he talked to someone who lives in, I think, Kololo. So he was like, why don't you stop taking this food? So that person replied in Luganda, but the way he said it was, that's for the poor. Yes. Yes, you cannot tell me to eat. I'm not poor, so why should I be eating that food? So yeah, the mindset, the culture. So of course, the risk factors will be now the obesity, which is the weight gain, the first thing. I will talk a bit about it. Physical inactivity, and then the aspect of genetics. I think this time I posted in the group how, because of for the white societies, for Europeans, the environment is very cold, and their body requires a lot of energy to sustain the heat. So the genetics that food is good for them because it gives them a lot of heat. Compared to us here, where the weather is okay, the weather is nice, so the body is not yet prepared for amount of calories, the amount of food we take. So the genetics also plays a factor. Even in the uterus, when the baby is in the uterus, if the mother was hungry, the baby will be preparing to come out for hunger. But when the baby receives sugar, there's also that mismatch with what they were expecting in uterus and then out in the environment. So I think that also tells a lot about how just that, because I don't know, when would you say the culture changed it from the farming agricultural society to this industrial? can say at least maybe the last 100 years. So maybe, I think for us, it will be our grandfathers. Maybe for you, it may even be your mother. So it may even be just one chain away from the change. Um, and the way the body works, the body does not evolve like technology. So our body takes decades, centuries to evolve. Yes, for the body to change, it takes a long time. It's not, so perhaps there will be a generation maybe in the 2000, what will that be? 2100? That will even be close. Maybe 2500s, where who will be okay with the food because their body has not been used to it. But at least from there on, there will be a lot of suffering and a lot of these conditions. Because yeah, it can take up to 500 years for the genes to get used to the environment. That process is very slow for a reason, yeah. Now, of course, with all these issues, just like I was telling about Entebbe, also healthcare here. It's very broken, very weak. There's lack of infrastructure. Can see even the US taking away the funds has put the healthcare in an ICU. Even the system, it's now literally what everyone is crying. So the healthcare is already too weak. There's also lack of awareness. All of this has created the risk factors. So yes, diabetes is a big burden in Uganda. So this was an old figure, but it also shows what I was talking about. 80% of Ugandans have diabetes are not aware of it. Actually, there's a time we went to Kayunga, we also went to Masaka. Yeah, a lot of people who came were diagnosed for the first time. They were not even aware that they had. So someone just one day wakes up, they are blind, the eyes are not working. Another day, the kidneys have stopped working. The legs now, amputation, someone has to lose the leg. And I think now the societies and the culture has a lot of stories to say it was a witchcraft, something. Yes, something must have gotten to him. Yes. Just to make it make sense. It's not, yeah. Actually, the word diabetes comes from, I think now that was even before Christ, when someone urinates and the ants start coming to the urine. Just like ants come to, if you have a cup which there was maybe the sugar, yes. So the ants will look for the insects. Yes. So those ants now, even the black ants, those ants will be looking for the urine of these people. So even the word diabetes mellitus is Latin for sweet urine. Yeah, mellitus, just like millet, literally comes from sweet. Then diabetes is the urine. So that is the main sign up to now we have is the urine in sugar. And even the person has to over urinate actually because of there's a lot of urine. There's a lot of sugar in the kidneys. So yes, diabetes is a chronic metabolic disorder. Of course, the high glucose. The way we classify it, mainly we say there's type 1, there's type 2. It is not really that much clear, but it's just for practice. Type 1, you say these are ones you find in kids. You see kids who have diabetes now. That's when you say type 1. Mainly it's because of the pancreas, which is the organ which produces the insulin, which takes care of the sugar, has been destroyed by the body. What we call autoimmune destruction. So our body has antibodies to fight infections. But sometimes, unfortunately, those antibodies, the body's immunity, can attack the body itself. So even you hear of rheumatoid arthritis, this arthritis of the joints. There are a lot of conditions which we call autoimmune diseases. So you can ask, why does it happen? Why does the body attack itself? Because that is not normal. So there was a theory which goes to say the H-Yun theory, which says the reason why the body attacks itself is, okay, let me use Africa as an example. Africa, the kids traditionally were exposed to so much. If you live by the age of 5, you were lucky, you were blessed. Why? Because there was a lot of infections. There's a lot of unhygiene in Africa. But at the same time, that was keeping the immunity. It's like the Ascaris were busy because they were fighting a lot of infections. So what happens if the army is bored? So you can imagine if the army is poor and there's no war. So that's why these conditions are more common in the West, because they don't have the same infections, the same unhygiene environment. Yeah. So that's why the body attacks itself. I think that's why in some countries normally you get a coup when there's no war, because they are bored. There's a lot of boredom. Yes, people have guns, but they don't know what to do. So it can misfire. So yes, that was type 1. Type 2 is the one which is now a commoner one, which is for it's because of the insulin resistance. I will discuss it further. Now there's another one which is we call gestational diabetes, which happens now during pregnancy. I think that's why during pregnancy you are told to check for sugar levels, because there's a woman who will not have had diabetes before, who will not even have diabetes after pregnancy. It's just during that 9 months that they actually just get diabetes. The main reason is because of the change of hormones in the body during the pregnancy. So, but still, there has to have been risk factors. So, someone who had already risk factors, they get pregnant. Now, during that pregnancy, the body still has to store more energy because they have the baby, the youth, the fetus to take care of. So they get that diabetes. Sometimes you see those babies when they come out, they're the big babies. So that's one of the signs of a mother who had diabetes. The baby can be overweight. You can see, ideally, the baby is not supposed to be reaching 5 kg, but you can see an 8 kg, 10 kilograms. What? Those are the big babies because of because it's like the baby himself have to become diabetic because there's a lot of sugar, so they have to take it also. So they become huge. Yeah. So automatic, that's the season now.
Yeah, because I wanted to ask
Yes.
that gestational diabetes, when that big babies, are they also born with the diabetes or they
So if they're lucky
can
enough,
be
they can recover. If they're lucky,
but without it?
if they're lucky enough, but when they are born diabetic because there's a lot of sugar in the body. But if they are ideal, since they're healthy, unless they have gotten type 1, they recover from it. Now the problem with that is that baby has to lose that weight. So what happens if the baby does not lose weight? It means that's how they start obesity from young age. Yes, from an infant, you'll just be now
And for the
down.
mother, does it automatically go?
Not automatically.
Or
Some it becomes from there they get actual type 2 diabetes. Others they might not get it. Yes, but it's already a risk factor. So someone has to put an effort. Yeah, but then unfortunately there's less education. Yeah, the system is there. Because when we're looking at it, diabetes, especially type 2, the way the body of women and women are designed, the body of a woman is actually healthier to deal with some of these conditions. So they're not actually supposed to get, they don't get a lot of heart conditions. Women don't get hypertension. Normally they only start getting these conditions after menopause, because by then the body protection reduces, which is those hormones, the estrogen, the progesterone. So, but ideally, men are the ones who normally get these conditions and who die earlier. So now, pregnancy can be the time for women to get either this diabetes gestational or what we call eclampsia, preeclampsia. If you have heard of it, that is now hypertension in pregnancy, which is also deadly. Actually, the one for it causes more death compared to the one of diabetes. Okay, so this summarizes how type 2 diabetes happens. Um, so, okay, I think let me just get maybe laser pointer. Can you see? So yes, hyperglycemia. These are the whole things which are happening. But let me start from, of course, this side of the organ, the pancreas. So when the body, when you eat food, normally that's when the body releases this hormone, which is called insulin from the pancreas. And that hormone is the one which goes and pushes the glucose to the body, to the muscles, to the brain, to the kidneys, to all the other parts of the body to use that as an energy. So now, during when there's a hypoglycemia, for that matter, what we call the type 2 diabetes, we have the fat cells of the body, because the body now has to store. So you have taken glucose, you have taken a lot, you have used enough, the body now will use that to store, because the body does not know the next time you're going to eat. So it has to store it in the liver. It keeps on storing that glucose. Now, the storage of the liver, that warehouse, becomes overfilled, that it cannot store it anymore. So it has to now go and look for other parts to store it. So it will also go and try to store it in muscles. It will also go and try to store it. Now that's what we call now the adipose. So between the different organs, so between the liver and maybe the stomach, they will try and put some there. The body is trying just now to store it in different areas. And that's why it's more common within this abdomen area, because that's where a lot of it, but also the hands. So that's just the body trying to, because the body does not know the next time you're going to eat. Our body is not aware that we have a lot of food. It still believes that, yes, just like our ancestors, there will be hunger, so you have to keep on storing the food. So unfortunately now, that process also confuses now what we call the hunger. So when you eat food, okay, when you're hungry, you look for food. But now, especially with this junk food of today, there's a way even the person does not feel satisfied. So they sort of remove what we call, when you eat food, you're supposed to be full. But this whole process also disrupts that body part. And even though someone is not hungry, but they find themselves eating more food. So it's like a form of an addiction, actually, to food. Yes.
Actually, that's a condition which we always call, that is leptin resistance.
Yes.
Leptin is an hormone in our body, which is responsible for making us feel hungry. You know? So sometimes when we are so exposed to these sweet foods, which are so addictable, and our cells have they have got used to these foods, and they have generated a lot of fats in our body. Our cells get affected in the way that they are unable to sense the other hormone, which is always for hunger. So that's why some people don't even get hungry, because their cells are unable to detect the other hormones for you, the person, to feel hungry. So eventually,
Full. So the other way around.
yes,
They
for
don't.
you to get hungry. So eventually, these people, however much they have just eaten, they keep on craving for this food, however much they are not hungry.
Yeah.
So the eating goes on continuously.
True. Yeah. Okay. So to finalize it, so now from there on, because of the body storing, let me say, the glucose, especially in the muscles, now that's why we say it's insulin resistant, because now even the muscles stop listening to the insulin. So the body has sugar, it's supposed to go inside, the body refuses because it's already full. So that's why you say it's insulin resistance. Actually, that's the condition now. So from there on, when we have that sensitivity, so this is how it is also related to the other NCDs, what we call the hypertension, the heart diseases, the stroke, the cancers, the kidney, things like infertility, things like arthritis. They're all sort of linked with that process. So, and which is why we do what we do. If you remove the first one, you can recover from the others. It's this chain of events. Okay, so I think that is what we call metabolic syndrome. Those are the 5 main features: high blood pressure, elevated blood sugar, high levels of cholesterol, the weight in the abdomen, and then what we call these triglycerides, which is the cholesterol itself. So there's the good cholesterol, which also becomes low, and then there's the bad cholesterol, which for it goes up. I think, if I'm not wrong, Yasin has done it for you, what we even our chart, the risk score. So from there you can calculate and say. So yeah, this condition is called metabolic syndrome, which is it is like precursor to these other conditions. So you have this one. This is actually the one you need to deal with, because this is the one which will lead you now to the cancer, the heart disease, the dementia, and the other NCDs. So of course, these are the symptoms of diabetes. We've talked about polyuria. Now, when there's a lot of sugar, now in chemistry, I think we remember that sugar is a what? Is a water absorbent. Sugar, salt, those things get what? They look for what? Because that osmotic process. I don't know who was the last person in school, but maybe Sharifa. That osmotic process. So when there's a lot of sugar, actually they also absorb the water from the body. That's why the person has to urinate a lot. I'll wake up at night, I urinate 3, 4, 5 times.
The water goes where there is high concentration of.
Yes, it follows the urine.
So the water looks for the sugar.
Because why? Because the body is also trying to remove the sugar. The sugar is already too much. That even the body now is telling the kidneys, let's remove. We're already too much. So now that also brings the water, and the person becomes both over urinating but also over thirst. They drink a lot of water for polydipsia. Now that process at the end of the day, that's why diabetes, fine enough, by the time someone gets diabetes, what we call the real type 2 diabetes, they also start losing weight. And why do you think so? They lose weight? Because now the body cannot take any more sugar, water resistant. The body itself now stops refusing taking sugar. So even though the person is hungry, but the body does not take in the sugar, which is why they are given insulin. They go and get insulin injections to help them push the sugar back to the body now. Actually, because what happens to the body is when it has been refusing that insulin for so long, even the pancreas, the organ, stops producing more insulin because the body is not listening to it. So the person ends up losing the car which is supposed to drive it inside. So someone actually loses more weight, someone becomes small, which is one of the signs of actually chronic diabetes type 2. Because with all that, there's a loss of energy, fatigue, the eyes become weak, and then even the wounds. So these were more of the complications, what we call. For the complications of diabetes, mainly we have this acute, which is now the ones which happen immediately, and then the long-term complications. So as you have seen, hypoglycemia. When does hypoglycemia happen for diabetic person? When they take insulin. So if you have ever seen someone who's diabetic, they normally they can feel dizzy. Sometimes they are told to come and take food. Even if they are not on insulin, sometimes they can actually crash. Diabetic people, they can get hypoglycemia quickly because, as I've said, the body is not responding to it. Yeah. So what kills them is not actually too much sugar; it is less sugar. That's actually what kills a lot of people who are diabetic, as you have seen. So normally, you are told to keep some food around, some sweet things. There's also another hormone which reverses that process. Yeah, because that thing is deadly, especially at night. Actually, the worst time it happens is late, early morning, around from midnight till 5 a.m. Unfortunately, even that's why a lot of deaths happen. So in those times, because the body itself goes through what we call its biological clock, and that clock turns. When that clock turns from midnight, it's when the body actually becomes more hungrier. So yeah, a lot of people unfortunately die in those hours. Other complications. Now, this decay happens mainly to type 1, the kids, because for them they have no insulin to begin with, because the source is destroyed. The other chronic complications, we have talked about chronic cardiovascular diseases, for blood vessels, heart attack, stroke, the eyes, same thing, because even that sugar goes and damages the eyes. They damage the kidneys, they damage the nerves, which is why you have seen some people who get amputations, they lose their legs because of that damage, because the nerves are not feeling. So what happens, the person walks, someone can step on it, maybe on a nail, but they don't feel any pain. So the person gets a wound, but then they don't know that they have a wound. So the wound increases, and before you realize that wound has eaten all the leg actually. Because the body, that's why they say if you have those conditions, don't put open shoes, don't put closed shoes, because you get a wound, but you not even know that you have a wound till it becomes infectious. And now, one of the nastiest
To some
things.
extent, one of the symptoms to begin with is that pricking pains under the feet.
It's like the nerves are dying now. It's like they're
Nerves are
crying.
dying.
Yes, when that starts
It
breaking.
doesn't stop even on our feet, but all over the body. To some extent, people start experiencing burning sensation all over the body.
Yeah,
So the nerves are dying.
yeah, the sugar. Okay, on the positive side, how do you manage it? Things we do here: diet, interventions, as we have talked about, balanced diet, of course, reducing the intake of sugar, salt, saturated fats, and increasing fiber intake. Fruits, vegetables, whole grains. These are things which we have always talked about. So, though you can say there's sugar in fruits, but that's the kind of a healthy sugar compared to this other processed sugar, because our body even has better way of using the sugar from fruits. However, not juices, not what we call now a juice or that juice which is made because liquid sugar. If you see that liquid sugar, now when you make like an orange juice, the sugar which you make there, it's liquid. That liquid sugar is actually the deadliest sugar of all sugars. The one which is soda. It's also one of the things which is liquid sugar. There's what they call the syrups or corn syrup mixed in food. Because for it, our body does not even know how to break it down. That's fructose.
The one from the orange, you mean the orange juice trying to mean
No.
all the juices which are packed and processed.
Yes, the processed ones. Not the natural ones are okay. The processed ones, just like a soda, they're the ones who our body cannot even use. Of course, exercise. Having regular exercise increases sensitivity. We talked about why muscles are the first part of the body which stops listening to insulin. So by using the muscles a lot, you actually now bring back that sensitivity. So that's why exercise is the heartbeat of everything to recover. Of course, managing weight and BMI, I think that one we have talked about. The more fat is in the body, even the more inflammations, which itself. So inflammation is we have talked about immunity, which is when the body start attacking itself. So when there's a lot of adipose tissue, which is the fat, what happens is the body itself produces more soldiers, and those soldiers go and even what damage the pancreas. One of the signs is that one of the things it does is to damage. So even having that much fat, especially the what we call the visceral, which is in the abdomen, in the long run exacerbates or worsens the issue. Yeah, so it's a vicious cycle. Of course, smoking is never good, not just for diabetes, but for all other things. Same thing with alcohol to reduce it. There's some alcohols, I guess, which even have sugar. These days, there's sweet alcohol, but even the non-alcoholic sugar. Because the problem with alcohol is it does not lead to diabetes directly, but it can kill you because when there's too much alcohol, someone will not actually feel hungry, even though they're starving. Actually, that's what alcohol, because alcohol itself uses sugar. Actually, alcohol competes with the body to use sugar. Yeah. What we call hangover, it's one of the things for treating hangover is to take a lot of sweets. Yeah, because the body is starving. That's actually what alcohol does. Yeah, to the body. Stress, same thing with stress. Stress. When our body is under stress is when we are ready to, for example, to fight. Now, if someone is chasing you, now the body has to be under stress. So when you're under stress, the body also now, instead of using the glucose, producing it for it takes away the sugars. Yes, what we call cortisol. Now that's the hormone which removes the sugars away So it competes with the insulin. Now insulin's job is to push the sugars inside the body. For it, it pushes the sugars out of the body. That's why too much stress makes you hungrier. Yes, actually, it makes you more stuffed. Sleeping, I think I've talked about why a lot of death happens at night. Yeah, because that when we sleep, our body now is going to its clock, and in that clock, ideally, you're not supposed to have. That's why they say it's not good to eat a lot of food when you're sleeping, because the body knows its things. By the time you sleep, there's a lot of hormones which are released at middle of the night. Then that thing starts coming down in the morning. That's why you wake up with energy in the morning. Compared to now, the body is also now winding down to sleep. So the body has its clock, actually. So someone gets tired by now. At night, there's not actually much of work you can do. Yeah, so that's the biological clock or the circadian rhythm, I think. Yes.
Supplement.
Mm.
He has talked about that point. That's why people's diets, as you say, that always die at night because there is about how
Mm.
there is about how our biological clock
Yeah.
always meant these hormones to rise at night. The hormone,
The cortisol, yeah, good, yeah,
so
true.
a little bit
Makes us active. Yeah, thank you. So lastly, of course, curricular screenings and checkups. There are two main things here. Fasting.
So even when you sleep during the day,
Yes.
you will notice your die.
that's why
That's a good question.
it's also I think it is also related to people with diabetes.
Yeah, but even elderly, anyway.
Diabetes and who are also injecting themselves with insulin.
Yes, in general, but not just that, but even heart people who have heart diseases, hypertension, all of them actually. I don't know whether you can recall the last time someone died in the morning. Maybe it could be wrong. Do you remember the last time you have seen someone dying, or at least taken to hospital? I think it is actually, these conditions mainly happen past midnight. Another reason why it happens is because of sleeping. So now, what happens? We have talked about how low sugar actually kills you. So when you are awake, if you are low sugar,
You can.
yes. But now you are sleeping, the body is low, you don't know it for a while, you may not even wake up. That's the point. You'll just go like that. So it's also another reason why it's more common to happen. Same thing with stroke. When a stroke happens, if it happens when you're awake, you might realize something is wrong. But if it happens at midnight, yes, other people are sleeping, so you'll also so you'll only realize in the morning, or people will realize in the morning that actually things have went wrong. So yeah, it's a vulnerable time to sleeping. So anyway, fasting. The good things about fasting, which is what we really advocate here, is to fast. In a nutshell, when you fast, number one, you start using the stores of the glucose in the liver, in the muscles. The body now goes back to use all the stores of energy which has been stored. So the body now frees itself up. At the same time, that helps to bring back that sensitivity to insulin, the hormone. Which, of course, by using that energy, you have also reduced the fats, which have also been part of the problem, part of the inflammation. So fasting, we cannot really emphasize the benefits of fasting. I think it's the magic drug. Actually, it is a drug they give for diabetic patients. You know, they've ever had called metformin. Metformin is like the first line treatment. Whatever metformin does, actually fasting does, with no side effects, because this drug has side effects. So everything you can give someone for that drug of metformin, actually fasting does the same things. Ironical enough, yes, even without side effects, because that metformin, normal people who take it, they complain of muscle pains. It has its side effects, even the kidney. And that's a
So
drug.
that formula also looks for the sugars from the body.
So metformin works to some extent like fasting, because one of the things it does is it reduces. So when you take food, now that food has to be converted to glucose. For it reduces that process. So it's like you have not taken much food. So it has a lot of functionality. One of the other things is that it also makes the body more sensitive to the insulin. Another thing it does, I think, was also to remove more of glucose. So it had more of functions. It even gives, just like fasting, it also gives someone to live long. It's one of the drugs where these days they say if you take it, you can actually live long. Because just like fasting, it helps the body to stay small, to keep away these conditions, these NCDs. Yeah.
So another how to understand it is how metformin works. I think you can really appreciate how these natural interventions are really very important. If you really decide to fast, it is very okay. But as he has said, if you use the drug, it has a lot of side effects. And for example, now people who are taking these drugs doesn't, they don't cure. What it does, it makes you, it inhibits the absorption of glucose into your body or your bloodstream. So eventually, the way you have eaten food is the way how you release it out.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how it controls glucose level.
It's like some people who to lose weight, there are people who go and they go for a surgery. And you know what they do in that surgery? It's like they remove part of the stomach. Yes. Why? So that the person gets full quickly. If the stomach is like half of what it was. So that's one of the surgeries they do. Yeah, it's
They
called.
extract the fat.
No, the stomach itself, they remove part of it. They
Now,
cut
the
and,
things
and,
now,
and
if your
remove this.
stomach is like this, they always cut,
Yes.
they reduce the size.
They cut out the meat.
Yes,
The stomach, so the stomach has a lining. The stomach is like this, isn't it? It's a line, eh? It's a long line. So it's like you clamp and then you remove part of the stomach. So there's only a small part of the stomach left. So when you take food, that food makes it
Yeah,
eat
I
up
thought
quite quickly.
they extract.
That one is also there. That one is a different procedure.
Mm.
That liposuction of removing fat, that one is also there. Yes, but this one is more of directly, it's a surgery.
So the stomach is made of what?
let me give you a
Of
story.
meat and
Let me
so
give
some
you
meat,
You,
some
you've seen the
muscle,
animal.
some
Maybe
whatever.
No,
you have not
yeah.
it's like
It's an
this.
intestines actually,
We
what we're
always
talking
talk
about.
about
Kind of.
stomach. We
So,
always talk about
yeah.
stomach.
Mm.
And whenever we talk about stomach, people think that all of this is the stomach.
This food,
Yes. But the stomach is something small which is around here.
It's a tube actually.
Something small.
I think you can even
Wherever
see
we
it.
eat food, food is supposed
It
to
is
go
there.
into
That's the stomach now.
that
Yeah.
one, exactly.
That is
So,
the stomach.
meaning that there are other people who are always eating, not getting satisfied all over the time. So, in such a situation, if they see that this
Yeah.
overeating will lead you to accumulate a lot of fats, what they do, they reduce the size of the stomach. That's the surgery.
Yeah.
you say they cut the intestine.
I wouldn't put it as overeating, yes, because if you have seen the animal, I think you'll see how the intestines are. Because and then the stomach is just like the intestine, but it's a bit bigger. It's just on top of it, but it's a tube because that's why it's called the gastritis. It's a track. It's a long track. The food enters, the food moves, the goes to stomach, the food. That's how the stomach, the gastrointestinal tract is. Uh, Makes sense. But I wouldn't necessarily say it's for people. Yeah, anyway, we have talked about the issues with the medical industry, like because it has money. So if a doctor is a specialist in that field, we might not have to tell you to go and exercise because for him, he will tell you I have this surgery for you. So that's what it does. Yeah. And people who have money, they can maybe travel to Turkey, India, they get surgery, and they come back with half stomach. Yes,
Stomach.
that is it. So, yeah. So of course, exercise. I think.
Stomach mutilation.
Indeed, it's a mutilation. When it comes to exercises, these are the three main types: aerobics. We have all been doing here with. There's the strength, which is also important, but also flexibility. All those three contribute to managing the insulin resistance. So of course, aerobics, that one is the using the body exercise, what we call now the real exercise, running, walking, whatever, let me say, you'll do after this, mainly is aerobics. We don't do much of strength because that's more building the muscles, which is also important, but also flexibility. That's stretching. I think that one you also do it with the yoga poses from our coach here, our health coach. All of these things contribute. So we have our app, I think the Google Fit, the smartwatch, but there's some other device which we are actually bringing to Uganda. It is called continuous glucose monitoring, CGM. So when you now want to test your sugars, of course, they have to first prick you, isn't it? You have to first get pricked with blood. This thing for it, you just attach it here, and it's always measuring with your phone. So actually, you don't need to get pricked. You don't have to wait to measure. So this one actually is measuring you 24/7. So you can actually see when you have eaten, how the blood changes, or which kind of foods do you eat, which raise the blood up, the sugars up. Uh, but yeah, but it is more expensive, of course, compared to this other one. Yeah, but it's more safer because you don't have to wait for it to feel first dizzy, and then you're like, okay, let me first prick my. See how, but now this one you're always seeing. Actually, the phone will be warning you now because it has it's sort of an app. Okay, finally, yes, there are a lot of challenges within diabetes, infrastructure, healthcare in Uganda, hospitals, doctors. This might not be the ideal to say, but when we went to Entebbe Hospital, the diabetic clinic, actually we came across the doctor, the physician who was running the clinic. And would you imagine that doctor was, some of the patients were even better than him because he was even using his stomach as a table anyway. It was that big. So so those are the challenges within.
Yeah, the protruding stomach.
Yes. So if that is the doctor now, what kind of advice will you be giving the patients? So the system is broken, very weak. It's just funny, put it that way. Medicine is also expensive. The insulin is reducing. Yeah, these insulin injections, the pens, the high cost is very expensive. It's a condition which will drain you financially without equation. Before they used to make insulin pens, but they have even stopped making insulin pens for Africans. Do you know why? Yes, because they sell African. The insulin pen. Have you seen insulin pens? Unlike these injections, the syringe for them it's just a pen. It's like a pen with the insulin.
So you prick.
Yeah, but for it it's more easier because you just get it and then you do this. Unlike the needle. But now they've stopped making it for Africans actually. It's one of those companies because they were like, no, Africans are too poor for this.
They're very expensive.
Let them use their needles, yeah. Should have started bringing it. Yeah. That's the state of affairs. Of course, the public health campaign and awareness, which is what we're even doing, is to create awareness. It is really important for people to be aware, just to know what these conditions are, how to prevent, what causes them, what to do if it happens. Of course, primary health care. It's unfortunate, but still in Uganda, I think you can imagine how there are a lot of new hospitals. Even there's the Uganda Heart Hospital, which is being constructed, I think, this year in Naguru. There's a big new one. But all these are built in what we call secondary or tertiary. But actually, the most important part of healthcare is what we call primary. Now, when you classify healthcare, you say there's primary, there's secondary, there's tertiary. Primary healthcare is going to clinic, or let me say even a community health worker. So you have a headache, they will tell you, you have headache, you have high sugars, go and control it. That's primary healthcare. Secondary is you have diabetes, take the medicine. Tertiary is you have got blindness because of diabetes, go and get rehabilitation. So those are the three levels of healthcare. So ideally, where we have to put more energy is in the prevention, the primary, but it does not have as much money. So yeah, a lot of money is in the secondary and then maybe the tertiary. But yeah, there are a lot of advocates to now promote diabetes care, even at community healthcare workers, health center, 2, 3, 4s, MCH, maternity, antenatals, what, so that it is really important. But lastly is the community-based interventions for lifestyle modifications and self-care. The only true way we can actually manage diabetes is through using the community to promote self-care, uh, to build the community which is proactive, which is supporting each other, which is accountable, which is encouraging each other. Because it's hard if you are fasting and others are eating, it will be hard for you to keep it. But if all the 3, 4, 5 of you are doing the same things, you'll support each other, you'll motivate each other, you'll be keeping each other accountable. Hey, did I see you eating chips today? Be like, "Mm." So, yes, it was a mistake, but I will not do it again. You'll keep each other accountable, yes. So that's what we need to build. And of course, self-care. Self-care is what even this concept was all about, is to promote self-love. Love yourself, take care of yourself. Do not leave it for the doctors, the government, the NGOs, yes, to be responsible for you. At the end of the day, everyone is responsible for themselves. And that's what we are trying to promote. Put the effort. Just like what happened now. Anytime this person who is bringing diabetes medicine to the hospital, just like US, they can go. And now what is going to happen tomorrow? No one is going to buy for you insulin. So you need to put the effort upon yourself. Okay, yes, I think that is it. Thank you for listening. This is just a small picture. He who has a why to which to live can pay almost any help. So this is what we call it is a journey. It's like pushing a rock up, but once you know why you are doing it, once you are knowing the reason why you are doing it for yourself, for your kids, for your family, it's a journey which you'll do it, however much hard it is. Yes, you have to push that rock up. Thank you. Any questions? Thank you for coming. Yes, our crowd, our online crowd. Thank you. Okay, I think we have learned hopefully 1 or 2 things about diabetes. And diabetes is the mother of our NCDs. It's the one which is comes before all the others, that insulin resistance, as we have seen today. So we need to fight the mother and not just the children. Okay, I think if that is it, we can go and do some exercise now that we are motivated to avoid this condition. Yes.